Give me your picks, give me your insights. I want the bets from Betting Weekly. Because we win, that is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best and we're successful. Come watch our show, Bet River sponsors. It's time to start, enjoy the show.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. Brand new week here. It is Monday, the 11th of August. You with Steve Wyss and Nathan Joyce, just like it was last Monday. Let's hope we can get a few more winners, just as we did the previous week. Nathan, how was your weekend? How was your week? Have you been betting much over the weekend?
Weekend was, a little bit steady. Brazilian football is crazy as ever. We're in that stage now where there's Libertadores matches, then league matches, then Sudamericana matches. So reading a lot about squad changes, managers under pressure. This is normally where I thrive. So it's a really good time of year. And yeah, last time I was on Santos with a nice winner on us, minus 1.25. A little bit of Neymar magic bailed us out of trouble when they went a goal down. But yeah, no, it was nice to see.
Yeah, when we had a really strong Monday last week, that's for sure. Hopefully we can do the same again. I tell you what, I just felt over the weekend it was almost like the calm before the storm, because it was Sunday evening and there wasn't much on, to be honest. I was struggling to... There wasn't any soccer anywhere, really, that interested me too much.
Take a break sometimes, though. Like, just
I can't
hold fire.
I do struggle with that, but it felt like a real calm before the storm, because next week Premier League's back, other big leagues are back. It's going to be absolutely full on. It wasn't the biggest betting weekend in terms of the sports book. The biggest soccer bet was sadly a loser, $30,000 on Middlesbrough-Swansea, of all games. Over 4.5 first half corners. That was a live bet. Someone maybe trying to be opportunistic there. It didn't quite come off. The most wagered on soccer matches over the weekend. You can tell how quiet it was to an extent here. Middlesbrough-Swansea was the fourth most, and we had Orlando City versus Inter Miami. That was the most. Probably not the biggest surprise on a weekend slate. The Community Shield Palace-Liverpool was just the second most wagered game. But yeah, in general, it was quiet. But I feel like it's going to be a really, really sort of big week in the build-up to the Premier League and stuff like that. Big shout-out to a notable golf winner. I was watching the golf. It was such a quiet day Sunday. I don't normally watch regular season PGA Tour events too often, but Justin Rose did come in at 80-1 to win the St. Jude Championship, and someone did have nearly $200 on him and won nearly $15,000. So that's a great winner. Congratulations to that particular bettor. But welcome into all. Ming Chung, Rick Haley, good to see you. Steve from Lynn, and Buelo Charles. We're going to talk a little bit about the matches today. I've got some insights into Swedish Allsvenskan again. I've got an angle in the Portuguese league as well. And then we've got a full breakdown. The Copa Libertadores is on this week. It returns the round of 16. So who better to go through the card and give his best bets than Nathan Joyce, South American expert. Just a bit of housekeeping before we move into the bets today. Betting Weekly newsletter. Do sign up for free. That should hit your inbox today. There's some exclusive picks. And then, of course, the Insider comes out every Friday as well. I mention it every single show. But for those who are not involved, then you've got to get involved in these free newsletters. Totally free to sign up. I'll put it in the chat, the link to sign up. Likes and subscribers. I mean, we're getting so close now to 11,000 subscribers. Any more would be greatly appreciated. And we need those likes, Nathan. We need those likes. They've drifted again. I know it's not always easy to like when you're watching on certain apps and things, but please do like the shows. They really do make a big difference to us. And it's actually, we're going to be celebrating tomorrow a 1-year anniversary. Betting Weekly Live is a year old. I can't even remember who was on the first show. Probably Nigel. And I've got the feeling it was Jack. But a year on, I mean, I can't believe it's been a year. I know you've been a more recent addition, but thanks everyone again. in to have supported us in that calendar year. It's greatly appreciated, and we hopefully we're going to go from strength to strength, because we've also got a brand new show going to be debuting on Saturday. And this is going to be whenever there's big matches on, Premier League round and stuff like that. It's going to be 2 p.m. over in the UK here. That's 9 a.m. Eastern time. Nigel is going to be on the first show this Saturday. I think the first one I'm on, you're going to be joining me, Nathan, possibly James Eastham as well. So we're looking forward to some Saturdays as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Going
to be a lot of fun.
Welcome in. I'm just going through some comments before we go into the bets today. Duncan, good to see you. He had a great betting weekend. The Ipswich Birmingham draw, PSV goals, Seattle Sounders. Didn't they win 4-0, Seattle Sounders? I saw that result last night, actually, away from home. Great win. Shame you weren't on the handicap as well, Maybe you were. Flops were, the Sheffield Wednesday game, that was annoying. I got burnt there. I went over 3.5 goals. Leicester, I was actually quite disappointed with them, if I'm being honest. I thought Leicester were quite poor to oppose Leicester this weekend. Leslie, Matt, Real, Brennan King, good to see you. Holo AA, buenos dias to you. Meninda, good to see you as well. Brian M, wishing us a happy anniversary. Okay, let's move on to today's betting action. Swedish Allsvenskan did treat me well last Monday, and I'm hoping it might treat me well again. The first match there, Elfsborg-Varnamo. I'm not going to get involved in that game because we've got Varnamo are struggling in the relegation zone, but they're one of them teams who I don't think they're quite as bad as their league position suggests. Unfortunately, they're one of those sides that kind of bad things happen to bad teams. They find ways to lose games. They find ways not to score goals, stuff like that. Elfsborg are the better team. They should win the match. I'm not going to get involved there. The team I'm going to be targeting again is IFK Goteborg here. Gothenburg did the business for me last week. This is a massive game. GAIS hosting them. It's a big derby. There's no home advantage here whatsoever. They both play at exactly the same stadium. This could get feisty. The fans are going to be involved. GAIS are something like 8 or 9 unbeaten, I do believe. And this is the battle for Gothenburg this season. It's actually both clubs are doing quite well. I'm not going to get involved in the money line, but I do think both teams score, yes, at -143 is a very, very good bet here for GAIS versus IFK Gothenburg. Two main reasons. I'm not 100% convinced by the defence, but also both sides possess a very, very good striker. The top 2 scoring strikers in the league, actually. Ibrahim Diabate for GAIS, and Bet Rivers are taking no chances here. -120 to score any time. I'm not going to get, I think that's probably a fair price, but it's that man again, Max Fenger. He delivered last week, and he's +175 now on his own turf. They're the away team, but it's their stadium. He's on penalties, and Max Fenger just simply has to be backed again. He's a fox in the box, proper number 9 striker, and in a derby game, I've got to get involved here. I think there'll be goals. I do like the over, but I want to get that 1-1 draw in my pocket in case it does end that way. So both teams score, yes, I think is probably my best bet on the game. It's -143, but I still think it's a good bet. I wouldn't put off anyone backing on Diabate to score any time either. He's a monster, absolute physical monster of a striker. Not many teams can deal with him. The parlay, actually, Fenger and Diabate to score is +375 with Bet Rivers. So you could actually take a look at that game as well. It's got to be Max Fenger to me in that particular fixture. Just looking through some of the comments here. Santos last night delivering for you, Nathan, there. Last week, of course, that was a very good winner, 3-1. I watched some of that game. It was bonkers, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can tell 2 teams struggling to find any form, but then if you have someone like Neymar in a poor team, it does make the games quite chaotic. But I actually thought Juventus were much better in that game than I expected. But then the inevitable mistakes crept in. You can't concede over 24 goals in 7 matches and expect to keep a clean sheet. So, that Santos came back in style. And, it was good to see Neymar on the score sheet, especially with Ancelotti and his team watching on as well. So, get Neymar at the next World Cup for one last sort of swing at that. That would be nice to see.
I've always had this theory when 2 poor teams play each other, especially if they're in the relegation battle and they fancy beating each other, that the goals just often flow. And even if like the trends going into the game is unders, I will sort of automatically maybe go over just on I call it kind of my personal theory. One of my theories in soccer anyway. And that's absolutely fitted that bill, didn't it? A side that can never score away, did have chances, did actually score a goal. And it was definitely an example of that. Loves Bianca Andrescu. Didn't realise you were based in Gothenburg, but he said it's been going wild there in anticipation of the game. This is a sort of match that probably won't kick off on time for various different reasons. Might have a stop-start sort of thing with the fans. It happens in Swedish football a lot. It could be a cracking atmosphere there. Holo Are. One of these days, how do you pronounce that, Nathan? This guy here. He's got some picks for the Mexican League. Monterrey Moneyline, Toluca, and he's sprinkling Cruz Azul. There you go. How do you pronounce that name? You know better.
Well, I think I would say you've nailed it from there, but we'll probably both get found out there, won't we? So thanks for stitching me up there. You're meant to lead this.
Holo Ahe. It's got to be something like that.
Really we'll go with that.
Hope I get that right. But thanks very much for coming in and putting in your bets there, Mexican League. There's another league today that I did take a look at, and this is the Portuguese Primeira League. We've got Estoril against Estrela da Amadora. I'm not foolish enough to get involved in this game. I don't know enough about either team. Quite as simple as that. But Porto and Vitoria Guimaraes, I do know a lot more about. Seen a lot of Vitoria Guimaraes in Europe in recent years. And Porto, of course, have just had both teams have got new managers on the bench for the start of this season. Francesco Farioli is in charge of Porto, former Nice manager, former Ajax manager, famously blew the title in the Netherlands last season. But one thing I know about Farioli is that he is quite a defensive-orientated manager, more organised in terms of discipline, I would say. When he came into Nice, something silly like 17 of the first 19 Nice games in the league ended under 2.5 goals. It was a ridiculous record. In the end, there were a few more overs. I was following him last season in Ajax, and I think in several big games, the goals were down. His first 4 wins last year at Ajax, when he first came in the club, 3 of them were 1-0. So when Farioli comes into a club, I think his first port of call is defense, looking for structure. So under 2.5 goals is plus money. That really did stand out to me. You can actually get under 2.75 goals at minus 124 with Bet Rivers as well. And yeah, I just believe that's the over is just priced upon Porto's reputation. They are one of the best teams in the league. They normally win most of the matches. But Vitoria Guimaraes have been, up there top 6 in recent years. New manager in charge for them. I'd be very surprised if he's going to come to Porto and try and outplay them off the park. It'll probably drop deep, sit deep. And this match, probably, if you are going to bet on Porto to win, you might as well bet on them to win 2-0, because it's that is what Francesco Farioli has a lot of in his career as a manager, win 2-0. Don't know his exact record, but I reckon there'll be quite a lot of win 2-0s at Nice and at Ajax. So that under, for me, does look a good option in the Portuguese Primeira Liga. We usually have quite a few Portuguese people coming in chat, so I wonder if you've got any opinions on the games. Foxy, good to see you. And he also loves both teams score no in the Porto game. You've got to be careful, as A says there, with we do know there's a lot of cards and stuff in Portugal, so that can impact the game state as well. But you'd imagine first game of the season, no one wants to do something really stupid, surely. Chris says 1-0 Porto. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what odds those are with Bet Rivers. Tristan Wiggle says IFK Gothenburg moneyline, great value today. They are probably slightly overpriced, I must say. Effie Brodowski, good to see you. Trabzonspor -1. There is plenty of soccer games on in Europe, across the world, in sort of not random leagues, but sort of leagues that we don't normally.
You'll find them. Yeah.
Yes, it's that sort of day. It is that sort of day. Again, calm before the storm. Next Monday, it's M&F over here in the UK. I think there's probably the Liga games, and Leeds Everton. That's the first game. Monday Night Football this season, so we're looking forward to that next week. But anyway, Nathan, you're on the show, and we have got now to discuss Copa Libertadores, last 16 state. Not exactly sure when did the group stage finish, Nathan, for this? A month
the group stage finished back in May. It's just been a huge. It's been at least 2.5 months, because obviously the Club World Cup, we would have normally been at a much more advanced stage than this. So something to bear in mind with your betting as you go further along, because the game is going to be even more wedged in and crammed in across South America. So squad rotations, etc. And when I'm on the show, of course, I'll talk about it. But yeah, it's been a big old gap since that round of 16 draw about 2 months ago. Steve, I think you're on mute.
I was on mute. Thank you very much.
I thought it was me.
Yes, it was me. Yeah, you can usually watch these Copa Libertadores games on the live stream on Bet Rivers on the app, and also before I forget, loads of notable live streams today. You can watch Vikings-Liga, Allsvenskan games, Danish Superliga as well, and the Estoril game in the Primera Liga. French Ligue 2 Amiens against Stade de Reims as well is available to watch on the live stream app or on the website. Copa Libertadores, then. I think you've once said to me before, it's your favorite competition in South America.
Yeah, by far.
Is it
by far?
Is it also your favorite to bet on? And is it easy to bet on or hard to bet on in general?
Group stage and early anti-posts, yes. I think the bookmakers get it wrong 90% of the time. The way in which the tournament has gone over the last 3, 4, 5 years, with Brazilian teams dominating, has made the knockout stage a little bit more difficult. We're seeing more like 4 or 5 teams into the last 16. So it is a little bit more difficult to predict. This time round, there's only 1 or 2 teams with altitude advantage at this stage of the competition. So it's tricky. There is a growing gap between Brazil and the rest, where you think that would make it easier, but how the draw has fallen this time around has made it a little bit more complicated. But I still think there's still, at this stage of the competition, 2 or 3 anti-post plays, which we'll go through shortly. And there's a few angles. But look, as I said previously, when we looked at Conference League, Champions League draw, sometimes it is best waiting for a second leg where there is going to be the value there with whoever's at home. So maybe a bit of patience required here, but we'll go through it. We'll have a little look. I think there's a few excellent bets here. So yeah, let's dive into it.
Randa's draw no bet, says Effie Brilovsky and Michael Munch. Also, Randa's team. So Randa's looked like an option there in the Danish Superliga today. Real Brandon King, thank you very much indeed for the kind words of the Betting Weekly Extra Time Euro preview show. Reminder, those are out on YouTube now. Premier League show as well with Nigel and Jack was released on Friday. Copa Libertadores, then outright futures winner. I mean, if you're not from Brazil, don't bother turning up here in the last few years, it seems. I mean, the last time that a non-Brazilian team won was 2018. It seems, certainly post-COVID, it's been dominant from the Brazilian sides, and that's why they're up there. The top 2 sides are the favourites, Nathan. At this stage, is there anyone that is worth looking at in this market to have a bet on?
Yes, there is. 1 Brazilian and then 1 Argentinian side, and it's not going to be a River Plate. I have no idea why they're ranked in 3rd here. I think it's purely because of their name. Now, Flamengo-Palmeiras have been battling out to be favourite, and not even like an each-way swing for the last 3 seasons or the last 3 years. And the last 2 years, it's been big priced Brazilian teams where the market has missed that. I know that because I've been on them. Fluminense were 33-1, and then last year Botafogo was as big as 28-1. So we're not getting those prices this time around or at this stage of the season. But Botafogo catch my eye once again. I think I need to steer away from Flamengo and Palmeiras. I think Palmeiras have dropped off a little bit, and I'm just looking at the calendar. Obviously, both Palmeiras and Flamengo represented themselves really well at the Club World Cup, but they've got the league to deal with. They've been dealing with the Cup as well, and then now the Libertadores, fighting across all 3 competitions. So much traveling, so much expectation for them to at least get a double. So for me, I'm steering away at them because they're too short a price, but I really like Botafogo to win it back-to-back. It wasn't expected last year, but they grew in confidence. And then at the start of this year, replaced the manager, lost key players like Thiago Almada, who went to Lyon. But in the last 2 months or so, there's been a really nice rebuild there. They've brought in David Ancelotti for his first role, obviously learning from his dad. There's been a lot of eyes on him, and he's only lost 1 out of 8 games since coming in. And that was against Cruzeiro, who performed incredibly well in the league as well. So Botafogo, and they've recruited really, really well. They've signed Danilo from Forest. They've just signed Neto from Bournemouth. Arthur Cabral from Benfica, top striker replacing Iger Jesus, who's gone to Nottingham Forest. Joaquin Carrera from Inter Milan, and Alvaro Montoro from Velez as well, an 18-year-old who will be in Europe in the next year or two without a doubt. So they've got a really good hand, and they've got a really nice draw. The only threatening team on their side of the draw is Palmeiras, but they have a good record against them. So if you can beat Palmeiras, then you probably look like you are getting through to the final. So they're a standout. And a little bit of a curveball, I'm going to throw someone else in there. Yes, Brazilian teams have dominated, but you can't dismiss Racing. They were definitely the dark horses at the start of this competition, performed excellently in the group, won the Sudamericana last season, beat Cruzeiro in the final, who are now in the top 3-4 in Brazil, challenging there. And they just come alive in these sort of equivalent to the European nights, Champions League. They come alive in the Sudamericana, Libertadores. The only game they didn't win in the group stage at home was when they played behind closed doors. Like, the crowd is really important for them. And we'll get into a couple of their players as we talk later on, but they're a really good shout. Like, they're on a weak side of the draw. If you take away that Flamengo Internacional game, their draw's been really kind to them as well. So you're going to get good value on them to at least run through to the quarters or semis at least before they bump into someone like Flamengo. So that's why you're getting that price, because they will have to beat a top side. But for me, Botafogo and Racing are the standout bets at this stage if you aren't on anybody at the moment.
Bet Rivers are also offering the top goal scorer market here. Obviously, at the moment, 5 goals leads the way. I think there's 3 players on 5 goals. The favourite is Adrian Martinez here, and then that's at plus 400. But this looks at the minute quite an open market. I mean, I was looking at one of the top scorers. I think the team's already knocked out. So you've got to be in it to win it, I suppose. Still, realistically, I mean, some of these names, I've got to be honest, I'm not familiar with quite a lot of them, but you are. So you're going to point us in the direction of someone here that is worth backing in the top scorer market.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with Adrian Martinez. If I like Racing to go far in this competition and looking at their side of the draw, I know he's the favourite plus 400, but it's a really nice price. He scored 10 goals in 13 Sudamericana games as Racing won that particular tournament last year. And he stepped up again, and he's been excellent this time round. I don't think people can cope with him. A big physical striker who's on penalties as well, ticks a lot of boxes. And then we look at their side of the draw. They have Penarol, who they should be over 2 legs. Then it's either Fortaleza and Velez. Again, 2 teams who I'd back Racing to be over 2 legs. And then you're in a semi-final, potentially against a Brazilian team. But he's only 1 off the top goal scorer. Now, that's Alan Patrick, who has 5 with Internacional. But they have Flamengo, and they've not delivered this season. So if we look at the odds, and we'll talk about that game, I'm sure, but it looks like Flamengo may get the better of them over 2 legs. So they're out. And now if you look at the rest of the top goal scorers, there's a Bolivian player for Bolivar they've been knocked out. Same for Alianza Lima. The next player in line who's still in the competition, I can't even work it out. There's 3 or 4 down. So it's only got Alan Patrick to potentially really worry about. The River Plate striker in there, Sebastian Jerussi, is out for the season. Yet he's priced up as the 5th favourite. So he doesn't really have too much competition. Everyone else who leads the line is on a couple of goals, but they have quite a tricky draw. Palmeiras aren't really fit and firing. They don't really beat teams more than 1 or 2 goals, especially in this round of 16. Abel Ferreira likes to play quite ugly football. So I think it just makes sense. Yes, he is the favourite, and it might sound like a lazy pick, but if you look at who he's going to be playing, he's got at least, I'd say, 4-6 games there to get maybe 2 goals, and he could win it comfortably. So I think that's quite a good bet.
Yeah, and I'm guessing in this competition, certainly semi-finals onwards, there won't be probably that many goals anyway. So it's not like... I know there's a chance maybe you could get a random hat-trick in, say, a last 16 game, but we're at a stage of a tournament where the mismatches aren't as much as the group stage. So
exactly that.
It's a sensible selection, that is, Nathan, that's for sure. Copa Libertadores, then. We've got, obviously, matches throughout the whole week. We're going to go through the cards. Some matches we'll talk about more than others. The action starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time, I do believe. Fortaleza against Velez. Actually, before then, I've got some breakdown of the tickets, which I've got here in terms of futures. Palmeiras are the most bet team, nearly 34% of the futures tickets. We Bet Rivers is on Palmeiras, and 28% of it is with Flamengo here. River Plate, 13% of the tickets there on them. And the fourth most wagered on the futures is Atletico Nacional from Colombia, the last non-Argentinian or Brazilian side to win the competition. Nathan, Atletico Nacional.
Yeah, I mean, I've not mentioned any of those 4 teams, and they're the ones who are being backed. So we're contrasting of opinion, but that's the industry we're in, right?
There is 5.4% of the tickets on Racing Club. They're the 5th most wagered, so that's an interesting one there.
Shrewd punters.
And I've got some data from producer Troy behind the scenes here. Games involving River Plate and Racing have been the most popular matches to wager on so far. So plenty of Argentinian interests here. But let's go into the Copa Libertadores then. Is that page 1? There we go. Fortaleza against Velez. Velez, is it? Velez? I always get Velez. That's it. Plus 104, home favourite here. And over 2.5 goals at plus 160. That stands out to me, but that's not unusual for South American soccer, is it?
No, and I think the fact that Fortaleza come into this an absolute car crash, I can't believe they've made this stage of the tournament, and I don't think they're going to be a Serie A team next season. I think they're going to get relegated. I think they're incredibly poor. I think they're very fortunate that they have drawn a team like Velez. I think if they'd drawn another Brazilian side or someone like Racing, they'd be absolutely smashed and they'd be down and out. But I still think Velez over 2 legs in the qualifying market at evens is a really good play. I don't think if they do lose the first leg, it will be by slim margins. I mean, if we go through Fortaleza's recent results, it's been an absolute shambles. They got hammered 5-0 against Botafogo, with Botafogo's half-rotated side at the weekend. They've won 2 games this season, the last 10. One was against Juventude, and we obviously spoke quite heavily about them last week and how poor they are. And then they beat Bragantino, who are a side massively on the decline. But they've just been hammered, and there's a few reasons for this. They had the longest serving manager in Brazil for over 5 years. He's recently gone. At the start of the season, 2 or 3 games in, the sporting director left, and I'm not 100% sure as to why that happened. And the squad's just completely aging, really old. They haven't really had the finances either to bring anybody in. So this is a team with just no real superstars or any standout players. They've got Davison up top, who's won the Libertadores with Palmeiras, but he's 34. He can't do it all on his own. And I just think there's something about Velez. They were close to winning the league title last season. Admittedly, not strong or not started particularly strong. Haven't scored in the last 3 games, which may seem a little bit worrying, but they've only conceded 1 within those games as well. They just give a little bit of trust to their youth. It's what they don't have a lot of money, and it's what they've been brought up on. And I think where the success has come from, rather. And I just think over 2 legs, they'll be able to beat them. And for them to be evens in that qualifying market where a lot of the favourites are all heavily odds on and prices you wouldn't want to take unless you want multiples, I just don't see it. Yes, Fortaleza are Brazilian, but they're absolutely terrible. And I just think the draw's been kind to them in terms of not getting absolutely hammered by one of the stronger teams. But for me, I think Velez to qualify is just a standout bet.
Yeah, even money with Bet Rivers. Velez to qualify over the 2 legs in that market. We've got a match now, which, I just mentioned, didn't I? Got the wrong graphic up again. Atletico Nacional here against Sao Paulo, another Brazilian side. Plus 120 on the Colombian team here in the first leg. The goal line even lower. You can actually get over 1.5 goals at minus 195, which is very, very unusual. So we're not expecting too many goals in this match. You mentioned Fortaleza, a Brazilian but terrible. words that are not often used together, actually, Brazilian and terrible.
Yeah.
Are Sao Paulo better than Fortaleza? Are they? I mean, it looks over the two legs here. It's a much more closer heat.
Yeah, I do really like Sao Paulo. They've brought in Hernan Crespo as the manager, who's got a solid track record already. I mean, won the AFC Champions League with Al Ain, their second ever title there. And he's come across and he's only lost 2, I believe, of his first 10 games. The first one was against Flamengo away, and he'd only had the job less than 24 hours. And then another one was a cup competition. How much they bothered within that one, I'm not 100% sure. But they've been really solid. And I can see why the line is a lot tighter, because Atletico Nacional won all 3 of their group games, only conceding 1. And Sao Paulo won all of their away games in their group without conceding at all. So they've brought in a manager who knows how to build from the back, brought in a lot of youth. Key players have come back for them. Lucas Moura got on the field for the first time since May. So that's going to be a huge boost. Whether he will start in this leg, I'm not 100% sure. But for the dressing room to have a player like that back, Sao Paulo over 2 legs, it should get through. This team, this Colombian team at home have been so strong. The crowd is unbelievably loud. Maybe some home bias within that as well. But if you were to push me for a bet or an angle within this, I would probably steer towards the draw or a 1-1 or 0-0 result there. So maybe some little combinations or just splitting a unit or 2 across there. I think that is the right angle here. It's a really difficult one to call. It's important to know that these games don't go to extra time in the second leg. It's straight to penalties. So it's a case of a lot of teams will want to build up advantage, maybe not take that risk or that gamble in that second leg. But Atletico Nacional have lost their star striker from the group stages. Kevin Viveiros has moved to Atletico Paranaense in the second tier of Brazilian football, which just goes to show the standard or people wanting to move to Brazil and why they keep winning the Libertadores. But without him, they may struggle to find the back of the net. So look at 0-0, 1-0, but I think a draw will be a fair result. I think that's the standout pick in this game.
Ding, ding, dong. The 0-0 detector is bleeping here. Plus, you can actually, I've actually looked at this. 0-0 is plus 540, but under 0.5 goals is plus 600. So that's the market you want to be betting in if you do like the 0-0 here. For that first leg, it looks like it's going to be pretty tight. Meninda asked, Nathan, did you see Lorenzo's goal last night in Brazil? Do you think he meant it? I've just seen it myself, actually. This is a goal that Lorenzo scored last night.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't.
I think he means it.
Okay, I will check it out afterwards and then report back. But that is one I've missed. I was at a wedding yesterday, so I didn't catch up on the action.
Yeah, I do think he meant it, Meninda. That's my personal opinion. Brad Betts, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Speaking on Brazil, he says both teams to score. Yes, a surprising 71% in the last 34 league games. It sounds like that's not normal for Brazil. So, yeah.
No, not really. But we're now getting to a stage of the season where games come thick and fast every 3 or 4 days. And there's been that break since the Club World Cup as well. So maybe that's just giving teams a bit of an extra boost. But it's quite a high percentage.
Okay, let's move on to another game here. This is Penarol against Racing Club. You obviously just given Racing Club out as an outright. Yeah, they go a short journey to Uruguay. I was seeing a tweet on X today. I forgot the account now, but something like 75% of the teams in the Uruguayan top flight are from the capital, Montevideo. Yeah. So I just felt sorry for the teams that were not based in the capital. There was one in like the northeast of the country. It's like every away day is just same old. Yeah. Anyway, Penarol are the favourites for the first leg. Only just though, really, this is a pick 'em, isn't it? And I'm guessing it's one of those where over the 2 legs, Racing Club are going to be difficult to beat, but these trips can be quite tricky, can't they? First up.
Yeah, the Uruguayans are phenomenal at home. Like, they didn't get to the semi-finals last year, like, out of luck, but at their home and away form in this competition is just completely contrasting. They're so solid at home, and then away from home, they normally fold a little bit. So I'm expecting Penarol to win the first tie. If you were to put me on the spot, it's not one that I want to get involved with straight away, but I probably would lean to, if I had to have a place a bet, I would lean with the hosts purely because their home record is so good. And I think what's important to note is the group stage was incredibly weak. They came out with 7 points. The only one they dropped was Velez at home, but they didn't have any fans for any of those 3 games, and that really changes the atmosphere there. It can be so intimidating, but then so can Racing in the second leg. So it's going to be a tale of 2 halves. I think if Racing get a 2 or 3-0 lead, if that happens, Racing will probably fancy themselves to repeat that scoreline in the second leg as well, and then hopefully Adrian Martinez can add to that. But it's going to be a case of the hosts will know they'll need to win. They've finally got fans back for the first time, so that should make it it's the first time this season, and having it into the semis last year, that would give them so much hope. Beating Flamengo as well last year was massively impressive. So yeah, look, I wouldn't put anybody off the hosts at a big price, or maybe a draw no bet angle for sure. But I think over 2 legs, obviously, as I've already said on the show, I think Adrian Martinez and co can get the job done in Argentina. But so this is definitely a sit and watch game for sure. If people want one away from the big teams, this is definitely going to be one for the neutral to get involved with.
Cerro Porteno. I have to say, I didn't know where these guys were from. I had to look these up earlier. My guess was Chile. I got it
wrong.
It's not.
Yeah.
Paraguay against Estudiantes from Argentina, of course. I mean, look, this might be me being sort of not. I'm not an expert in South America, but I would presume that the Argentinian side would be favourites here. A Paraguayan league surely isn't very strong, or is it, Nathan? Am I underestimating these Paraguayan hosts?
I think you're just underestimating the occasion within these particular fixtures. I think it's just the hosts, the advantage. I even sometimes feel like the referees are more lenient to the hosts. Like, it can be an intimidating environment. But Cerro Porteno haven't done particularly well in the group stage so far. Yes, they qualified with 7 points and a -4 goal difference, but they only edged past Bolivar, who had 6 points, and Peruvian outfit Sporting Cristal with 4, and they conceded 16 goals, and they were terrible as well. So it was a really weak group, minus Palmeiras, and Cerro Porteno were the team to sneak through. But looking at their home form, the first game against Bolivar normally whipped away from home. Like, they have previously lost to Bolivar, which was a huge shock. But this time round, they conceded 2 against Bolivar at home, which was really quite concerning. You should be brushing the Bolivians to one side in this competition when they're away from their altitude. Where Estudiantes finished top of their group, you can take that with a pinch of salt, because if we look at their group, they had Botafogo and Universidad de Chile, 2 very good sides, but then it had a Venezuelan side who picked up 1 point. So it made the top 3 look a lot better because they all took pretty much maximum points from them. Estudiantes, interesting sides. This is, if you get into a little bit more of the political side now, Foster Gile is who Liverpool fans may obviously know and maybe don't want to know. The former Liverpool director has been involved with them, and he's been formed this relationship with the president, Sebastian Veron, where he's been trying to buy players for them because Estudiantes don't have the money. So he's almost like personally bought these players and then brought them into Estudiantes team. That's been going on for about 1.5 years now. It's been really messy. Everyone expected Estudiantes to start winning the league and dominating, and it hasn't quite happened yet. They have got stronger, but there's still no real money there, and the deals aren't. I don't know. It's a grey area, shall we say. So looking at this fixture, I would say Estudiantes over 2 legs to get through here. Cerro Porteno, just a really weak group. I think the bookies are pricing it because it's going to be a tight game, because this is what the theme here of these first legs, and the teams at home need to take that advantage, especially when they're going away from home. Somewhere like Argentina, Estudiantes, they beat Botafogo at home as well, 1-0 in the group stage, and they're a much better team. So, but I think the Asian handicap or the draw no bet line towards the Argentinian side is probably the bet. Again, if I was to lean into one, but I'm happy to wait for that second leg, see where Estudiantes are, and probably try and hammer them on the corner line or the Asian handicap line. I think that's the right play for this particular match.
You mentioned Veron there. Is that the Juan Sebastian Veron? So he's the president of...
Is the president.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He's the president. Hernan Crespo's manager, Sao Paulo. Showing our age here, right?
Yeah, I know. He had a brilliant left boot.
Oh, he did.
What
he was a wonderful player, but as president, slightly different. Yeah. Controversial, to say the least.
Very interesting. Talking of a cracker, this one looks a firecracker of a fixture. Flamengo Internacional, all Brazilian tie here in the last 16. Flamengo minus 205 to win the first leg. Obviously, the two teams are going to know each other very, very well. I'm guessing over the two legs, you're thinking Flamengo. Would you get involved in the first leg?
This is a real hunch from me rather than me putting. It's hard to describe this one. Look, Flamengo obviously are the outright favourites to win the competition. They've got so much quality. Brought in Samuel Lino. They've got Diel Esqueta. They've got Pedro up top. The back four is the best in South America. But they sometimes find life a little bit difficult against Internacional. They've only beaten them once in the last 5 meetings. That was 3-2 in the last game of the season when Internacional had gone 17, 18 games unbeaten and were challenging for the title and just ran out of steam. So you can always take the last game of the season with a pinch of salt. And they met in round 1 and they drew 1-1 the Maracanã. Flamengo were all over them. But Flamengo, sometimes they're not a team who will batter teams 2-3-0. They seem to go 1-0 up and then sit back. And Internacional were my outright Copa Libertadores pick at the start of the tournament. So maybe this is where I'm going to show some bias. I'm being open and honest here. Inter were the team for me to watch. And many expected them to challenge for the title. But for some reason, it's just not clicked. But they did have around about 10 first team injuries for up until the Club World Cup. It was unheard of. Now, a few more have returned and they've looked a little bit more solid from the Club World Cup, but it's always 1 step forward and 2 steps back with this particular team at the moment. But for some reason, I can't get involved on Flamengo's Asian handicap price when I'm looking at it. I would prefer Internationals at +1. So obviously if Flamengo win, you get your money back and we can just pretend that it never happened. But I think this fixture could potentially catch Flamengo out more than they're making. I think they could go into this a little bit comfortable. Like I said, if they take a goal lead, they tend to sit back. They've also played the Club World Cup. It's been a really hectic period for them. So yes, they are the obvious favourites. They should qualify. But if International turn up, like they've got Alan Patrick, number 10, who's 34, 35, but there's been a case over the last 12 months for him to be back in the Brazilian team. He's the top goal scorer in his competition. Like he weighs in with assists all the time. Like everything goes for him. He's an absolute magician. And like if they find him, if he manages to get those areas in around the final third, International could take this to the second leg with a draw or a slight advantage. I'm not sure. But could I get involved with Flamengo chasing goals? I don't think I can. So this may bite me or like turn around and this is going to be a complete disaster. But I just think at the current prices, the gap's too big considering their recent records against each other as well. So International haven't shown themselves or painted themselves in a good light for quite some time now, but there's been growing signs that they can potentially get something out of this. So if you aren't convinced by my love for International, I just don't think you should. Maybe it's a watching brief because the Flamengo price for me is just a little bit too short.
The next match, you've got a bet for us in this one, a pick that you really like, Botafogo against LDU Quito. This is Brazil against Ecuador, isn't it? So
yeah,
you mentioned Botafogo as a potential sleeper in the outright market, well worth backing there. I mean, minus 240 at home to Ecuadorian opposition. That does actually seem generous to me. You really like the home team.
Yeah, I'm going to take it a step further, and I think the minus 1.25 Asian handicap line. I'm going to try and repeat the Santos winning bet from last Monday. I think Botafogo will want to take at least a 2-goal lead to Quito because sitting 2,600 meters above sea level, it's going to be a really uncomfortable second leg. They'll want to take more than a 1-goal advantage, and they can do that at home. They play on a big plastic pitch. They'll look to spread the ball. I don't think Liga de Quito will be able to cope with it. They've shown in their 3 away games in this competition that they aren't good enough. Flamengo beat them 2-0, didn't get out of first gear. Liga de Quito didn't have a shot. Flamengo had like 10 corners to Quito's 1. It was a training match for Flamengo. Now, Flamengo-Botafogo, if they played each other, it's a coin toss who would win that at the moment. So for me, I think Botafogo can easily replicate that result. If we look at Liga de Quito's other away games in this competition, they drew 0-0 with Central Cordoba, who are far worse than Botafogo and Flamengo, but the stats were exactly the same. The Argentinians hammered them. They should have beaten them. They're really uncomfortable out of their environment. And then the only team they did beat was Deportivo Tequila, who was a Venezuelan team, 3-2. But Tequila had an XG of 4.21 and finished the match with 39 shots. So I think if Botafogo get at them here, they can easily win 2-0. They'll need to take an advantage to Quito because they'll struggle and they will kick themselves if they get knocked out of this competition by the Ecuadorian team, who have on the decline, really. Yes, they're the champions, but they've not really turned up as well domestically this season. They're going to look like they're going to lose the title this time round as well. So I think that line, half loss if they win by 1, I'd be willing to take that because I feel like they can definitely win this. And I think 2-0, 3-0, a repeat result, what Flamengo did, is probably worth a few pennies as well.
Yeah, that match is on Thursday. We're into Thursday's games now, as a reminder to everyone. These fixtures are spread across the week. So Botafogo minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap there. Strong play from you, Nathan. Universitario de Deportes against Palmeiras next. This is another team I thought was from Chile. What's happened to Chilean football, Nathan? They're all knocked out of the competition.
You only have to look at the international team. It's so poor. Poor.
Dear, oh dear me. I've never heard of the team currently top of the Chilean league. I've just looked. Coquimbo, whoever they are. But anyway, Universitario de Deportes from Peru against Palmeiras here. Even money on the Brazilian side. I know they're away from home, but that just looked to me possibly. What do you think?
I wouldn't touch it. And this, again, it could be a theme here throughout this particular show. This could come back and haunt me, but Palmeiras, they're just not in a good place at the moment. Yes, they dominated their group stage, 18 points from 6 matches. But they had Cerro Porteno, Bolivar, Sporting Cristal, all considerably weaker than Universitario. In the league, well, they just beat Sierra after going a goal down at home this weekend, but had previously gone 3 games without a win. Abel Ferreira, the manager, had to come out and face the media and say that he wasn't going to be leaving the club. He wanted to stick around. Now, in this round of 16 games, if you look at all previous results for Palmeiras, Abel Ferreira this is not a team to tune into in latter stages of the competition because he will make them try and win ugly. It'll be incredibly boring. But since losing Esteval to Chelsea, the dynamic of the team has shifted. Even though they spent a lot of money, it's just something's not completely clicking there. They spent an awful lot of money, including 30 million for Vitoria. He's only scored 2 in 17 games, and 1 was at the weekend, so he desperately needed that. But what I like about the hosts is, look, the final is in their backyard. What an incentive that is. They've won the Peruvian first half of the league, and they're probably going to win the second part as well. So they're going to be double champions of Peru. In this competition, in 6 games, scored 4, conceded 4, lost narrowly 1-0 to River Plate at home, but drew with them at El Monumental in the last game 1-1 when they still needed at least a point to get through. And their group was against Independiente del Valle, who are going to set to be Ecuadorian champions. People may have heard of them from Moses Caicedo, Kendry Paez now, and Barcelona, who beat Corinthians in the qualifiers to get into the group stage. Now, the Universitario did a number on them, really. So for them to squeeze through in second place was incredibly impressive. They could make this really difficult for Palmeiras. It could be really ugly. Again, the incentive there to win or take something back to Brazil in the second leg is appealing. So I'm not saying it's an official play from myself, but if you were to push me into a bet, would I want to take Palmeiras at that price? The bookmakers are trying to entice you with plus 100, but I'm sensible enough to leave that. And if I was, I would take the hosts on the plus 0.5 Asian handicap and hope that they can take a draw out of it.
Well, this is exactly why you're on the show, Nathan. I would totally have got sucked into the trap. When I used to bet on the South American leagues and Copa Libertadores, there was just 2 teams really from Peru worth keeping an eye on, Alianza Lima and Sporting Cristal. It seems like these guys here are now in that mix for a lot more.
Definitely.
Amongst those 2. One final game before we finish the show, just to talk about Libertad here, Paraguayan side against River Plate. I had heard of Libertad. River Plate minus 108 on the money line to win the first leg. You say in the outright market, maybe, you wouldn't have had them as third favourites. But in this tie, should they have too much?
Over the 2 legs, yes, but will it be a game to watch? I don't know. I've only seen Libertad in this group stage, and they've not been amazing. They came out of a really weak group. Alianza Lima, who you just mentioned, finished third in their group, and Talleres was really disappointing, and they finished fourth, but they only scored 6 goals. Then they only conceded 5. River Plate did incredibly well to get 12 points. I can say maximum points. They got 12 points out of their 6, but they've lost Franco Mastantuano to Real Madrid since, and he was the person. He was their Alan Patrick. He was 17, but without him, like, they've really struggled. I mean, they drew with Independiente the weekend 0-0, and like they could have played for another 6 hours and it would have been the same. But what's really noticeable about this match is that they have only 2 or 3 centre-backs fit. They have an injury crisis defensively. The manager, Gallardo's come out, and Lanzini, former West Ham player, he's been told to go and train away from the first team. So is Matias Rojas, who, to be fair, he's a quality player, but he just hasn't been given an opportunity. But 4 or 5 players this week, Gallardo's gone, enough's enough. We're playing really poor at the moment. You're out the squad. But they have 2 fit centre-backs, and I believe they're both 21, and they've not been playing much either. So they've been thrown into an awkward-looking fixture where Libertad are probably one of the worst teams still in this. So over the 2 legs, you'd imagine River Plate would have enough, especially at home. But I wouldn't get sucked into River Plate's price here. I mean, it's another bookmaker dangling the carrot, but just defensive concerns coming into this in pretty mediocre form. Gallardo trying to change up the squad, make statements with excluding certain players. It's all quite negative, right? Why would you then want to potentially side with a team in and around that price who have all these problems? Libertad are okay, and Paraguayan football is not near Argentinian football, but this is what the Libertadores is all about. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on this one. This is one where I don't know what to predict for it. So I've done well, I think, to give a tip for 7 out of 8. But as I'm crawling towards the line, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not convinced. But I think the main message to take from this is River Plate third in this market. You are mad if you are backing River Plate to win the Libertadores. I will give you whatever price you want. It's just not going to happen.
It sounds like they can't be back with stolen money to win the Copa Libertadores. Just give us a reminder of your best 2 bets from this card of fixtures, Nathan.
Yeah. So the first one was Botafogo minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap line, just shy of evens. And then I'm putting my trust in an Argentinian side to beat a Brazilian side over 2 legs. So a little bit more patience here, but hopefully you rewarded Velez to qualify at evens against a really poor Fortaleza side.
Brilliant breakdown there, Nathan. You won't get anything better on Copa Libertadores this week. Thanks so much for that. The notable Monday house specials with Bet Rivers. This is NFL related. Any non-quarterback to win the regular season MVP has been boosted to 35 to 1. With Bet Rivers, and then a divisional special. I think Bet Rivers are throwing this one in to wind me up, actually. Bengals, Steelers, or Browns to win the AFC North is boosted to plus 150. I mean, the Browns are 30 to 1 to win that league in general. Baltimore Ravens, my team, minus 155 to win that division. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut there on that one. But if you do like the Steelers or Bengals, then that is plus 150 on either of them to win the division. You've got the Browns in your pockets as well, but at 30 to 1, the chances are quite slim. Thank you, everyone who joined live or on demand today. Really appreciate your support. Loads of shows still will come up today. Betting Weekly Tennis Live in an hour. That is with Mitch Michaels and Dustin Fox. We've got Betting Weekly Hardball with Doug and Chris, and then the Fast Break Show with Doug and Albert. That's at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern Time, respectively. Remember, on Saturday, we've got a brand new show. Going to be banging on about this all week, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's 2 p.m. in the UK. It's going to be a 3-man crew, certainly on Premier League weekends. We're going to be looking ahead to the lineups for Premier League, the best bets that come up, and when the Bundesliga starts, we'll be having some bets based on the lineups as well on that one. But Nathan, really appreciate that again today. Best of luck with all those plays.
No, pleasure of having me as always. Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. Remember to gamble responsibly. I'll catch you tomorrow with Will White, a big card of UEFA Champions League action. Take care, everyone. See you tomorrow.